start again. Good evening, everyone. It's Father Peter here. Just want to give you all a wee update on the works that are going on, have been going on, and will continue to go on in the church and in the hall here. First of all, though, I hope you're all well. I think some of you already had your holiday, and some of you are still looking forward to that. So I hope all that goes well. You've enjoyed this lovely weather. Interspersed with stormy downpours. So I want to update you, as I say, as where we are with the works going on in the hall and church, and how that will impact on Mass in the church and other activities in the hall over the coming days. I know a number of you will have missed having your daily Mass, and that's a lovely thing that you would miss it. So we want to get that back on the road, as it were, as soon as we can, but we have to do the works properly, so they may take a wee bit more time than was originally planned for various reasons. As you know, when these things start, snags can be encountered, and therefore they have to be dealt with, and that can end up lengthening the process. Let me speak first about the church. The painting of the church is progressing well after a few initial snags relating to the late arrival of the cherry picker, which is necessary to paint the ceiling. Work will continue in the painting for the rest of this week and possibly into Monday of next week, maybe even Tuesday. I realise it's very unpleasant to see benches uprooted and a large piece of machinery in the sacred space of our church, but it's a case of needs must. You all know what it's like in your own home if you've got decorators or other workmen in, especially when a big job is needing done. Anyway, we're well beyond the halfway point now as regards the painting, so things will look better next week at some point. We have to go with what the workers can do day by day, since the last thing we want is a rushed job and correspondingly poor results. The company we're using is very respectful and diligent, and also very careful and focused, so I have no qualms in their regard. It's very important, though, that you yourselves or others do not come into the church, even for a quick visit, while the workers are there. There's always a danger that something could fall or that people could trip. It also distracts the workers from their jobs, since they're having to keep an eye on you in case something happens. Normally I'm inviting people to come and visit the Blessed Sacrament, but this time I must ask you not to come into the church while works are going on. And anyway, I have removed the Blessed Sacrament from the church for the duration of the work, out of respect and veneration for the sacrament, of course. The current situation means that we can't have Mass tomorrow, Thursday the 17th, or Friday the 18th of this week, since not only the church, but also the hall here will have workers in full flight. I'll come back to the hall in a minute, though. I will say Mass privately and offer the intentions listed in the bulletins for Masses tomorrow and on Friday. And of course, I'll keep you all in my prayers too. And don't forget, there is Mass at the monastery at 12 noon, and if you have a car, you can go up to Weems Bay. So it's not that the Eucharist isn't available if you really want to come to it. The Saturday Visual Mass at 6 p.m. this coming Saturday, the 19th of July, and Sunday morning Mass at 10 a.m. on the 20th of July will be celebrated as normal in the church. At those Masses, I will advise you on the situation for weekday Mass beginning Monday the 21st of July. Hopefully by Wednesday of that week, we may be able to resume the 10 a.m. Mass in the church, but I will give you a clearer idea on that at the weekend. At the Masses this coming weekend, there may still be some disruption due to the displacement of benches and the presence of the cherry picker, which means you may not be able to access your usual seat. So please be patient and flexible if asked to move or sit in a seat you don't normally sit in. It's just a small thing to ask you to do. Please also observe any restrictions that are in place which impede access to certain areas of the church, whether by being taped off or by being blocked with pieces of furniture. These restrictions aren't, they're not superficial. These restrictions are in place to protect you and especially to protect our children. As regards the church, please remember that there will be another phase of work to treat the parquet flooring. It has been at least 10 years since that was done, and I'm reliably informed, I think, that the church itself hasn't been painted since 1975, so that's 50 years. Would you go 50 years without painting your living room? We had hoped to have the parquet flooring treated back to back with the painting of the church, but due to the snagging I mentioned at the start of the painting job, the company coming to do the floor understandably had to move to do another job and will not now be coming to our church until the week beginning the 4th of August. When they do commence, weekday Mass will go back to being in the hall, while the weekend Masses will be in the church. By that time, the work in the hall will be finished, so the hall can be used again. Now, as regards the hall, work began this past Monday on the floor in the toilets, both men's and women's, and in the kitchen. The entire floor in these areas has had to be ripped out due to a subtle and chronic water leakage over the years, probably from one of the cisterns in the men's toilet. The toilets themselves have had to be taken out, and both the tiles and the wooden underfloor removed. A new screed has had to be laid, and then new tiles on top of them will have to be put in. These have to be left for a few days without anyone standing on them, and then the grouting has to be inserted. Only then can the plumber come and fit the toilets back into the toilets. And likewise, the dishwasher had to be displaced to allow access to the damaged floor in the kitchen. Also, the doors in the toilets have to be cut and adjusted, as well as putting the dishwasher back in its place. So we'll just have to wait and see how long this job takes. But it's probably going to be Friday of next week, so that's the 25th of July. So activities in the hall can't take place during that period. Again, none of it can be rushed because we have to ensure that it's done properly. This means that, there can be no Mass or any other activity in the hall until the work is completed. Edward, the hall keeper, will keep hall users informed as to whether they may or may not use the hall. That said, the toilet for the disabled in the hall can be used at Mass times, but if you do come in to use the disabled toilet, please don't go around nosying into what's happening in the other parts of the hall. Don't approach these areas just in case of any accident and in case you disturb something that will then mean more work has to be done to fix any disturbance caused. On top of all of this, literally on top, the roofers are replacing the gutter system of the church due to rust and age. They have various other tasks to do relating to the main roof, but also to the flat roofs above the shop, the sacristy, and the parish house porch. So these will be things done in the coming weeks, depending on the weather. So in conclusion, I can only apologise for the inconvenience, but we have to adapt to the demands which the improvements to the church and hall require. Once everything is done and dusted, we can hopefully enjoy once again the sight of a refreshed sacred space for the worship of God and for a renewed, clean and secure floor in the parts of the hall which have been affected by problems. It's interesting, I was thinking how, particularly if you're used to Mass every day, certainly a priest is, and so many of you are as well, that when you don't have the Eucharist at hand, you can feel the lack of it. And that's not a bad thing. to sit with that feeling of the lack of the body and blood, soul and divinity of Christ. It's a sort of Eucharistic fast. Now, of course, if you want to, you can go to the monastery or elsewhere for Mass on any day. And that's another point. You might say, well, that doesn't suit me, Father. Well, then, you have to think about that a wee bit, as I do myself. It doesn't suit me, but does it suit the Lord? Is the Mass for me, or am I for the Mass? Is the Lord for me? Is he at my beck and call, or do I need to make an effort to go to him? So these practical things can often throw up good points for our reflection and for our spiritual lives. Having said all that, I will say Mass every day, whether it's the hall, the church, or when that's not possible, in the house, and I'll continue to pray for you all. I'm particularly concerned about those who depend on the live stream for their daily Mass, their Sunday Mass. I think last weekend it wasn't possible because the cherry picker was right in the middle of where the camera would be, so you would be looking at the cherry picker. So anyway, let's hope, with a bit of patience and flexibility on everyone's part, let's keep it relaxed and not blame start blaming people. They're taking too long. It's easy to do that. Let's just take it as it comes and trust in the Lord until it's done properly, and then we can all get back to hunky-dory. Okay, with that, may the Lord bless you and your families, all your loved ones, especially the wee ones, the children and their families, and the elderly and sick who are housebound. I think of you all the time, and I pray for you all the time. But let's enjoy the summer weather and abide the time of God for our church and our hall to be back to where we want them to be. Good night, and God bless you all. Bye-bye.